buttons that are in the Motor Control tab. Additionally, we'll cover the Customize function of the Tools menu, and we'll take a look at the File Save menu items. Before we start, I want you to connect the motor and the switches as we did in the last video. I would also like you to set the switches on the Limit Switches tab as we did before. You can either go over the previous video quickly before continuing, or you can follow the procedure detailed on the tutorial support material in the section that covers the third video. After you complete setting the switches and motor as described, the left switch will stop the car when it's moving left, and the right switch will stop it when it's going right. As we said before, the Motor Control tab has 4 groups of buttons, and each one of these groups controls one of the stepper motors connected to the board. Let's start by explaining what a stepper motor is. In a stepper motor, a complete turn of the shaft is divided into small increments. In the motors we are using, one full 360-degree turn is divided into 48 steps, hence the name stepper motor. This is achieved internally by energizing different coils in the motor at different times. This whole process is controlled by the board and directed by the PC software. If we take a look at the buttons for motor 0, we'll see that there are 6 buttons, 3 of them labeled up and 3 down buttons. In the previous video, we used these 2 buttons. We saw that by pressing the up button, the motor spins in one direction, and pressing the down button causes the motor to turn in the opposite direction. The question that probably comes to your mind now is, why do we need 3 groups of buttons? We will start answering the question by going over the similarities. No matter which one of the 3 up buttons you will press, the motor will turn in the same direction. The difference between the columns is not the direction in which the motor will turn, but how much will it turn. A look at the labels of each one of the 3 columns will provide us with the answer. When we press on the up button of the move column, the motor starts working. When we release the button, the motor stops. The buttons under the move heading work only while the mouse button is being held down. On the other hand, if we press on the up button that sits to the right under the step label, the motor will just turn a little bit. Technically, the motor will go to the next step. Every time we press on the step buttons, the motor moves 1 step. If we press the up button, the motor steps in one direction. A click on down steps the motor in the opposite direction. The 2 buttons in the center, the buttons under the continuous label, will turn the motor without you having to hold down the mouse button. A click on the up button will start turning the motor. A second click will stop it. Along the same lines, a click on the continuous down button will have the motor spin in the opposite direction, while clicking it again stops the motor. The setting on the speed control slider has an effect on the motor speed. All speed changes are noticed when you either press one of the move or one of the continuous buttons. Let's summarize what we covered so far. The up buttons turn the motor in one direction. Any of the down buttons act in the opposite direction. The move buttons have an effect on the motor only while we hold down the mouse button. Clicking on the continuous button will start the motor, while a second click stops it. Each click on one of the step buttons only moves the motor one step in the specified direction. In our model, the trolley moves left when we press any of the motor 0 up buttons. We will now customize the motor 0 labels so this will be perfectly clear. First, we click on the Tools menu and we go down to Customize. We move the mouse over Customize Labels and we click on it. The Customize Labels window opens. For now, we're only interested in the Set Motor sections of the window. This field holds the name of the motor. In our case, we will type in car. This is the label for all the Motor 0 top buttons. In our case, we will type the word left. A click on the Accept button will close the window. We're now back at the Motor 0 control panel. Notice that Motor 0 group has changed a bit. Here we have the title Car, indicating that this is the car motor. Notice also that the top buttons are not labeled up anymore. They are called left to reflect what this button does. Let's finish this part of the customization. Click again on Tools, Customize, and Customize Labels. Now type right in the field for the Motor 0 button buttons. A click on Accept will complete the procedure. The Motor 0 group in the Motor Control tab is now fully labeled. We only need to do one more thing. We will now change the button's position. I prefer to have the top button function as the right button, meaning that by pressing any of the top buttons, we'll move the car to the right. To set this, we again click on the Tools menu, move the mouse over Customize, but this time we'll select the Reverse Motor Buttons functionality item. In the window that opens, we will check the Reverse Motor 0 functionality box and then click on Accept. The Motor 0 group is now ready. Each button is clearly labeled. We know that this is the car button, and we set the top buttons as the ones that move the trolley to the right. Now we will save all these settings so we won't have to go through all this procedure the next time we want to work with the trolley. As with all Windows programs, the File menu has the Save function, which we'll use to store the settings on the computer's hard drive. Additionally, this toolbar icon can be used to save settings. A click on File opens the File menu. We'll now move to the Save Teach Sequence menu item. In the next video, we will start covering teach sequences. For the time being, it is enough to know that when you save a teach sequence, all the labels, speed settings, and limit switches configurations are stored in the hard drive. When we click on Save, the Save dialog window will open, prompting us for the file name. We will type trolley labels as the name and we will click on the Save button. The next time we want to use the trolley model, we can open the trolley labels file and load our work back to the stepper controller program. Our work is saved and we are now ready to proceed to the next video.